flushed. I love Asha and I will spend my life making her happy. That's more than enough. Dad snorted. You? Make her happy? You ruined her life. Asha stood up. Dad, please. This is our day. Before Asha could finish, her dad's hand swung through the air, striking her across the face. A gasp rippled through the room. The pain was sharp, but the shock and humiliation cut deeper. Her cheek burned as tears blurred her vision. David lunged at her dad, his voice a
I see you, my heart beats, a lady of all men's dreams.
This is Asha. Before we start, please consider joining the growing community. It helps us more than you imagine. Now, let's dive into the story. Honestly, you don't want to miss this one. It was supposed to be the happiest day of Asha's life, her wedding day. A day filled with love, laughter, and the beginning of a new chapter with the man she loved so much, David. The sun shone brightly in a cloudless sky. The garden was in full bloom and friends and family buzzed with excitement. Everything was perfect, or so Asha thought, as she walked down the aisle, radiant in her white gown. She caught sight of her father's stern face. He never approved of David, calling him unworthy. But Asha loved David, and she was of the opinion that her dad would eventually come around. But she was wrong. After the ceremony, as they gathered for the reception, the air was thick with unease. Her dad's glare at David was like an unspoken challenge. Asha tried to lighten the mood, laughing and chatting with their guests, but the tension was undeniable. Then, during the toast, her dad stood up. His voice was cold and sharp as he began speaking, not of love and happiness, but of disappointment and disapproval. Asha felt her heart sink. David squeezed her hand under the table, a silent message of support. But Asha's dad wasn't done. He turned his venomous words directly at David, accusing him of being unworthy of her daughter. David stood up, his face flushed. I love Asha and I will spend my life making her happy. That's more than enough. Dad snorted. You? Make her happy? You ruined her life. Asha stood up. Dad, please. This is our day. Before Asha could finish, her dad's hand swung through the air, striking her across the face. A gasp rippled through the room. The pain was sharp, but the shock and humiliation cut deeper. Her cheek burned as tears blurred her vision. David lunged at her dad, his voice a roar. How dare you touch her? Their fists flew, a tangle of anger and hurt. Uncles and cousins jumped in, trying to separate them, but the fight spiraled out of control. The sound of the wedding band were drowned out by shouts and crashes in the chaos. Asha felt a pair of arms around her. It was her mom, her eyes filled with tears. I am so sorry, Asha. The sound of sirens pierced the air. The police her mom called arrived and entered the venue. They pulled Asha's dad away, his face contorted with anger. He shouted, cursed as they handcuffed him and led him to the police car. The guests stood in shock. The garden, once a place of celebration, now looked like a battlefield. Broken glass, overturned chairs, the remnants of a day that was meant to be about love. Asha looked at David, his lips bloodied, his eyes filled with a mix of rage and sorrow. He came over and hugged Asha tightly. I am so sorry, Asha. This isn't how I wanted our day to be. Asha leaned into his embrace, feeling the piece of her heart breaking and rearranging. This was not the wedding day she had dreamed of, but it was a turning point, a moment that defined what she had to do next. There was no going back to pretending everything was okay. It was time to face the truth of her family, of her father, and of the life she was choosing with David. As the last of the guests left, whispering words of comfort and confusion, Asha realized that the disaster was just the beginning of a journey she never expected to take, a journey of standing up for herself, for her love, and for the life she deserved, a journey of revenge and justice. And it all started on what was supposed to be the happiest day of her life. The morning after Asha's wedding was nothing like she imagined. No joyful breakfast with family, no reminiscing about the beautiful ceremony. Instead, she woke up with a stinging cheek and a heavy heart. David was already up, pacing in their small living room, his face a mask of anger and worry. "Asha, we can't just let this go," David said, his voice tight. She nodded, looking down at her hands. "I know, but what can we do? That's my father." "Your father, Asha. He assaulted you at your own wedding, in front of everyone, and most importantly, in my presence. That's not a father, that's a bully." Asha sighed deeply, knowing David was right. Her dad's reaction was unforgivable. "You know, I had always hoped for his acceptance, but now I knew all that was a dream. I had to let go." As they sat at the living room, David and Asha began to plan. "We couldn't let Dad get away with what he did, not just for us, but for everyone he had ever hurt with his toxic behavior. I think we should start by talking to the family," Asha suggested. "If we can get them on our side, it will be harder for him to deny what he did." David agreed. "And what about legal actions? Should we press charges?" Asha hesitated. "I don't know. I want justice, but I don't want this to drag on and consume our life. We will do whatever you are comfortable with, Asha, but he can't get away with this." The next few days was a blur of phone calls and meetings. Asha reached out to her aunts and uncle, cousins, everyone who had witnessed her dad's outburst. To her surprise, many of them were supportive, sharing their own story of Asha's dad's abusive behavior. He always knew he had a temper, but Asha never thought he would do something like this. Her aunt Jenny said, shaking her hand in disbelief, "We are with you, Asha. It is time someone stood up to him." Her cousin Mike added with each conversation, her resolve strengthened. This wasn't just about Asha anymore. It was about breaking a cycle of abuse that had gone on for too long. David and Asha also met a lawyer, a no-nonsense woman named Miss Amma. She listened intently to their story, taking notes on a legal pad. "You have a strong case, especially with the number of witnesses," she said, "but you need to be prepared. This will be a public matter, and it could get ugly." Asha felt a knot of anxiety in her stomach, but she nodded. She understands, and she can't let him think he can treat people this way without consequences. Miss Amma gave them a small smile. "Good, I will start preparing the paperwork. We will hold him accountable." The following weeks were a mix of planning and emotional turmoil. David was Asha's rock, supporting her every step of the way. They gathered evidence, talked to more family members, and worked closely with Miss Amma. One evening, as they sat on their couch, exhausted from yet another meeting, David took Asha's hand. "Asha, are you sure about this? I mean, I will support you no matter what, but this is a big step." Asha looked into his eyes, feeling a surge of love and gratitude. "I am sure, David. I have been pushed around and silenced for so long. It is time I stood up for myself." David squeezed her hand. "Then I am with you every step of the way." As Asha lay in bed that night, She couldn't help but feel a mix of fear and determination. She was about to embark on a journey that would change her life forever, but she knew deep down it was the right thing to do. For the first time in a long time, she felt in control of her own story, and she was ready to write the next chapter. The days leading up to the confrontation with her father were like living in a suspenseful movie. David and Asha were deep in their plan, gathering evidence of their dad's toxic behavior. It was heart-wrenching and empowering, all at once. One sunny afternoon, Asha sat down with her cousin Lisa at a local store. She was hesitant at first, but she shared her story. She opened up to Asha. "I've seen it too at family gathering. He's always so controlling and mean. I remember once he made our cousin Tony cry just because he spilled some juice." Her words added to the growing pile of testimonies. She wasn't just the only person her dad's behavior had affected. Later that week, David and Asha met with their uncle Danny, her dad's brother. He was a quiet man, always avoiding conflict, but this time he spoke up. "He always been like this, Asha. I wish I had done something sooner. Your mom, she suffered a lot because of him." His admission was a shock. Asha's mom always seemed so strong, so resilient. Asha had no idea. With each story, the picture became clearer and more disturbing. Her dad wasn't just difficult, he was abusive, a bully who had hurt his family for years, and it was time for it to stop. The day of the confrontation arrived. Asha's heart pounded as David and her drove to her parents' house. This was it. This was the moment she would finally stand up to her dad. He opened the door, his expression one of surprise and suspicion. "Asha, what are you doing here? And you brought him?" Asha took a deep breath. "We need to talk, Dad." They sat in the living room, the air thick with tension. David was by Asha's side, a silent pillar of support. "Dad, for years, you've hurt us, not just me, but Mom, Uncle Danny, Lisa, everyone. It needs to stop." Her dad's face turned red. "What are you talking about? I have done nothing but take care of this family." Asha pulled out the written testimonies, the evidence of his action. "This is it. This is what I'm talking about. Your anger, your control, your constant abuse." He snatched the paper from Asha's hand, skimming through them. "This is nonsense. They are all ungrateful, just like you. Dad, please, just read them. Understand the pain you've caused for a moment." There was silence as he read, then he threw the papers down. "I don't need to take this. I have done nothing wrong." Asha felt a wave of disappointment and anger. "Dad, all we ask for is an apology, an acknowledgement of what you've done." His voice was cold. "You will get nothing from me. You and your husband should leave my house." David stood up, his hand on Asha's shoulder. "We tried, Asha. We tried." As they walked out, Asha's emotion was a whirlwind disappointment, anger, sadness, but above all, there was a newfound determination. Her dad's refusal to apologize only solidified her resolve. She was going to see this through, no matter what. The drive back was quiet. Asha looked out the window. The passing scenario was a blur. This wasn't the end. It was just another step in her journey, a journey that she was more determined than ever to complete. The weeks following her confrontation with Dad were a whirlwind. The story of what he did with the testimonies of family members began to spread. It wasn't just in their family anymore. It was in the community, on social media, everywhere. The man who had always presented himself as respectable and upright was now seen for what he truly was. One afternoon, as David and Asha were sitting in the living room, Asha's phone buzzed with a call. Her mom, her voice was hesitant, a stark contrast to her usual strength. Asha, your father, he wants to talk to you. He said he is sorry. Asha felt a jolt of surprise. Dad apologizing? That was something she never expected. Mom, I don't know. After everything. Asha, I understand. If you don't want to. I just thought you should know. Asha thanked her and hung up the phone. David looked at Asha, his brow furrowed with concern. What are you going to do? Asha sighed, feeling a weight on her chest. I don't think I can forgive him. David, not after everything. David nodded, his hand finding Asha's. Whatever you decide, I am here for you. A few days later, Asha received a letter from her dad. It was an apology, or at least his version of the one he talked about. His own upbringing, his regrets, his realization of the pain he had caused. But as Asha read it, something felt off. It wasn't about her or the pain he had caused. It was about him, his feelings, his experiences. Asha shared the letter with David, who read it carefully. It's your decision, Asha, but remember, you don't owe him anything. Asha knew he was right. This wasn't just about the slap at the wedding or even the years of emotional abuse. It was about a lifetime of his toxic behavior, and a letter wasn't going to fix that. The decision was hard, but Asha knew what she had to do. She wrote back to her dad, telling him that while acknowledging his apology, she couldn't just forget everything. There would be no reconciliation, no going back to the way things were. The day she sent that letter was the day she felt a through shift in herself. It was like letting go of a heavy burden she had been carrying for years. She was choosing her own peace, her own happiness. David and Asha started to rebuild their life, free from the shadow of their dad's toxicity. They became more involved in the community, finding joy in helping others who had faced similar struggles. One evening, as they sat on their couch watching the sunset, David wrapped his arm around her. We've come a long way. Asha leaned into him, feeling a sense of peace and contentment. Yes, we have, and we did it together. As the sky turned a deep orange, Asha realized that this was just the beginning. A new chapter in their life, one where they were no longer defined by the pain of their past, but by the hope of the future. Their journey had been long and difficult, but it had led them to a place of understanding and strength. They had faced the worst and come out stronger for it, and as she sat there with David, she knew that no matter what the future held, they were ready for it. This was a story of overcoming, of justice, and of moving forward. It was a story of empowerment, a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. Asha knew that their story was far from over. It was just the beginning. This story has come to its end, but here is something to ponder on. Has Asha's decision to not reconcile with her father despite his apology been the right one? Or was it a show of strength and self-respect? Or could it be seen as an inability to forgive and move on? What would you have done in her shoes? Share your thoughts in the comment below. Your opinion and perspective makes our community a rich and engaging place. And remember, if you enjoyed this story and want to see more, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us bring more content like this to you. Thank you so much for watching. I can't wait to read and engage with you in the comment section. Till I see you again in my next story. Goodbye.
You can do all the things we say.